What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another Tour Life. You got Brody and Yuli, as always. Both of us back in the States. Both of us maybe jet lag a little bit, too. Yuli, how you feeling over there, brother?
Feeling good. I've been awake for 30 hours, but I don't feel tired, which is good. I feel pretty good. I'm excited about this week. We had a lot of stuff go on this past week, and I'm excited to just get into it and chat shop with you.
Did you do the I'm going to stay up as long as I can so that way I can try to get back onto?
Yes.
Yeah, I did the same exact thing. I just watched movies and just kept my eyes open. I watched Tenet. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Extremely confusing movie. Extremely confusing. I posted something on Instagram. I'm not the only one that has no idea what was going on in the movie. But we are back in the States for a few days. Well, not for a few days. We're back in the States for good, but we're chilling in our respective homes for a few days before we go to Ledgestone here coming up. But Yuli's right. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of guests tonight. We'll be having Calvin Heimburg joining the show, returning guests, always a fan favorite on Tour Life. We'll have not only first time major winner, but also first time appearance for Corey Ellis joining the show. I also did an interview with Katrina Allen earlier today, which we'll be we'll be having it go live on here as well. So you can kind of hear her thoughts on what's going on with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and FPO. And then we also will be having Scott Stokely first time joining the show. He normally tends to kind of just be behind the scenes, I would say, like the topics and the politics and stuff and disc golf. But he had a hot topic and he posted it on his Instagram and I got tagged in it. And I said, all right, we need to bring him on and see what's going on. So it'll be fun to get to talk to him. Without further ado, though, today's episode is brought to you by Double G Jerky. They have tons of flavors to choose from, like hot boom sauce, garlic lover's dream, or smashed cracked pepper. Offer 1-ounce bags, which are perfect for a player pack to enjoy on the course. Every bag sold helps promote youth disc golf with Double G Children's Foundation. They have been able to provide discs and baskets for inner city children and have donated thousands of dollars to families in need. They've also just started a subscription service. So if you are interested in trying to get Double G Jerky and you don't want to have to go to the website and continue to buy every week or remember to buy every month, you can sign up with a subscription service and you will get your favorite Double G Jerky delivered straight to your door. You can do 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months subscription as well. So go pick up some Double G Jerky and use code Foundation for 10% off your order. Big thanks to Double G Jerky, as always, for sponsoring the show. We appreciate it. And if you guys can go and show some support for them, we'll appreciate that too. Tour Life keeps moving forward thanks to Double G Jerky. All right, let's jump in first and talk about the European Open. Obviously, the recap, the major that just went down, second major of the year. We still have Worlds coming up and USDGC, but this one feels bigger than it has in the past, I will say. Last year, first time in Finland, first time at the European Open. I got there and I was like, yeah, the course is sweet. Yeah, the crowd, that's cool and whatnot. But this year felt different. The field, it was the strongest the field has ever been. It was the strongest field outside the United States ever. So right then and there, the competition was high. And what are your first takes? What were some reactions from European Open? I guess if you want to kind of go through what happened with you first, maybe we'll jump there, and then we can kind of talk about what else happened up and down the leaderboard.
No, it was crazy, man. I hadn't been in Europe in 6 years, I think. It had been a long time. I had planned on going COVID year, but then obviously COVID happened. I planned on going the year after, something else happened. I was injured the year before that. So it was first time back in 6 years. And I have to say, man, it was awesome. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, the fans showed up. UC runs a great show, always does. Had the major championship feel. Not a lot of things really to complain about, honestly. I thought it was amazing. My play was good. I mean, I felt like I played good. I've been going through this thing where I feel like I get a lot of bad breaks, but they're probably bad shots. But in the moment, you know, you're just like, I'm the most unlucky person in the world. Working on it though. But no, I felt like I played pretty good. I ended up taking 32nd with a final round. I was out of the cash going in the final round, so that felt good to leave on a semi high note. And then it was an exciting finish, which was amazing. My number one takeaway that I thought that Europe improved on since the last time I was there was, I forgot what card it was. I was on James card, somebody else, and ahead of us was all finish card. And they had the biggest crowd. Yeah. And that's the first time I've ever seen that in Europe. It's always been the big crowds follow the Americans. And this time, the biggest crowd that I saw there wasn't day was an all finish card. It just made my heart happy that they're embracing their athletes in a way that, you know, probably makes them feel really special, but it's the way that it should be. And I was super that.
Yeah, and I think it'll continue to grow. You know, I think Vino is kind of the prime example now of he's like big in Finland, right? Like when we would go out and, you know, I didn't say go out as much as maybe some of the other guys, but they would tell me stories about when they would tell people who are disc golfers, and they'd be like, "Oh, I know, like he's a big deal in Finland," and that's only going to continue to grow with youth, the amount of youth that are playing over there right now. It's going to be scenes for sure in the future over there. It's always fun. Quick recap of my tournament. I started off with an okay round, 6 under to start, kind of put me in the top 20, and then followed that up with 2 really poor rounds, and then finished it off with a 6 under. Both my 2 like decent rounds, I feel like I was really close to shooting decent. You know, like final day, I had a birdie putt on the par 5 from like 25 feet, kind of hit left side chains, dropped, and then rolled OB. And so like right there's like 2 strokes. That's just like, man, that sucks. I will say I probably had, because this is what I say about like unlucky shots, right? I think everyone gets unlucky shots. I think the difference between the top players and the bad players is the top players throw very few bad shots that can get unlucky. Yeah. Right. And so if you're throwing 15 extra bad shot tournament than the top guys, you're going to probably get unlucky more often than not. And but I will say this was the most unlucky round I've ever seen. And my caddy was just flabbergasted. He didn't know what to do. Hole 1, okay, throw a bad tee shot into the trees on the left. That's fine. I get punished there, whatever. Just chip up, like jump putt up, like 5 feet short, hits the mulch, stands up, rolls like 45, 50 feet past the basket. No putt, bogey. I'm like, oh man. Hole 2, throw a bad tee shot, right? Pitch up to 20 feet, left side spit out. And I'm like, okay, what the heck? Hole 3, whatever, throw away. Hole 4, spit out. Hole 5, hit off the chain, roll 70 feet down the hill, bogey. And like after that, I was just like, I don't know what to do. Cause especially too, if you watch,
lose it. Yeah.
The front 9 is the scoring 9. Like you got to go low. And I'm like 4 over through like 6. And I'm like, what is going on right now? I was able to manage to battle back to even, which was good. Cause I think some people, if that happens to you, it's just, you just lose your mind and you're just gone. But that definitely sucked. And that was probably the most unfortunate or unlucky start of any round I've ever played. All right, let's jump into the leaderboard here and talk a little bit about what actually went down. So going into the final round, Calvin Heimburg had a 1-stroke lead over AB and had 2 strokes over Corey Ellis, and then had I believe 3 strokes over a bunch of people as well. There was 4 or 5 people on that chase card that were a couple back as well. I think Ezra was on there, Eagle was on there, couple people. Couple interesting things here. lead and chase card besides Eagle was the only one out of the lead and chase card. No one was a major champion winner.
Right.
So you had a lead card that were all trying to do something for the first time, which I thought was kind of fascinating to kind of see them have to kind of deal with the struggles there. And I think it also led to not really having anyone run away, right? Like there wasn't that dominant person. It was like Ricky was at the top and he was just chugging along and everyone was like freaking out. Everyone was looking around being like, we're all in the same boat. Do you think that had an impact at all on like the final round for these guys?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I was fully expecting Eagle to kind of come from the second card, like
really?
Because of the experience that he has. And he went on a run too, and he got like 6 or 7 in a row in the middle stretch. And I thought to myself, I'm like, dude, this guy's actually going to win it from the second card because how tough it is for your first time. You know what I mean? I think it's a little different when you have like, let's say Eagles on the lead card and you're actually beating the guy. You know, you're like, okay, I'm beating the guy who has done this before. And that's like setting the mark. You know what I mean? To where you're like, okay, I know Eagles won I need to beat because he's on the lead card. He won it last year. I feel like it would be a different mindset if you're ahead of him being like, okay, if I could just hold off Eagle, I'm probably good the whole time. You know what I mean? Because there's like a bar being set there, and that's a major bar. They didn't have it, like you said. And so it was a lot of like hot potato. I kind of felt like to where it was like, okay, who wants it? They were throwing it up there and people. But here's the thing. Usually when people are playing hot potato for the tournament, it's bad play.
Yeah, it wasn't.
This was not bad play. Everybody was playing pretty dang good.
Yeah, you look at the final round scores. You have Corey Ellis shooting 10 under, Kyle Klein shot 10 under, Ezra shot 9, Eagle shot 8. Calvin, we'll get to him in a second. He'll actually be coming on and joining us here in a little bit. He shot 4 under. Ricky shot 11 to shoot up 7 spots into the 6th spot. And then AB obviously taking the quad ended up shooting 3 under. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like the top guys, top 5 there all shot pretty solid rounds, Yeah. And Eagle shooting 8 under, taking a double on the only eagleable hole on the, no pun intended, hole number 3. He takes a double on the par 5 there. And then also takes 2 bogeys coming in. It was very interesting to kind of see it all play out the way it did. And I think a lot of that has to do with the course. We've talked about how awesome the back stretch of this course is. Yeah. It's a really good, I like the way the course kind of sets up of where the front 9 really is kind of like, figure it out, get your birdies, right? Like it's right there in front of you. You throw a good tee shot, you're probably going to birdie. And then that 10, 11, 12, 13 section, that's a tough section of where if your tee shot's bad and you're out of position, good luck. Like 12 and 13, those 2 holes, if you throw a bad tee shot, if you like hit early and get in a weird spot, it's easy to bogey. It's easy to double those holes. 14 is just kind of a tweener hole. It's just kind of put into that mix, which is fine. It's whatever. And then you got 15, 16, 17, 18. And those last 4, man, I love the change on 15 this year. I thought it brought a little bit extra to that hole where people actually were going for it and you didn't really see the layup. And then, obviously 16, 17, 18, just a great finishing.
I think 18 played the easiest out of them. If you wanted to close out, I felt like 18 was probably the easiest, and that hole has teeth, man.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people, I think 18 could probably use, I don't know. I'm trying to think, can you move that tee box back? Maybe you could. I think it could. I think it could benefit moving the tee box back like 50 to 75 feet because I think people this year kind of figured that hole out a little bit better. And also the wind wasn't too bad. Normally we played that in a tailwind. I think if the wind was different this year, if we played it into a headwind or like a left to right wind, I think that tee shot becomes a lot more trickier than the tail.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say too is Corey Ellis finally, and I can't wait to talk to him about this, because you have to think, say what you want about AB, right? AB kind of exploded and shot himself out of the tournament. Corey Ellis was not gifted the tournament though.
No.
Like it wasn't like he was only trying to beat AB. Ezra at the time, I believe, was already in the clubhouse at 31 under. And with Corey birding with where Corey was currently, he was 31 under. And Ezra was in the clubhouse before he threw his second shot on 16. So it wasn't like once AB kind of, left the scene, it wasn't like, oh, all right, well, Corey Ellis can just kind of play safe and he's a champion winner.
Well, everybody's saying that AB did what he did. Forget about that right now. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I do want to get to that, but yes.
He does what he does. But then you get to where Corey was, and like you said, there's already somebody in the house with a nice score.
Mm-hmm.
He won the tournament on 17.
Yes.
That shot he threw on 17 is so hard.
Buzz.
Under pressure to throw a backhand on that hole, to birdie that hole. Let me tell you, he's a fraction of going out of bounds right there. A fraction. A little less power, and that is OB left, without a doubt. Like, he threw it so good. A little more power, and he's right. That hole is so tough. 16, the upshot that he threw, there's pressure there. Come on, guys. It's a 250-foot hyzer. You know what I mean?
From where Corey was, I think Corey had like 260, probably 265. AB was probably a little bit more like 320, 315. AB was kind of out of position a little bit from where he was. Right. But I agree. Like if you remove the pressure,
yes.
Did you miss that shot ever in practice?
Which one are you going to rather have? You want to have that shot or hole 17?
Yeah, no, 16 is the shot. The only thing that's scary about 16 is if you miss the first one, then it gets really scary, right? Because every shot after that's nuts versus hole 17. It's like if you mess up, it's like
and I want to get into the whole breakdown of the hole as well, and we can do that when I think Scott comes on.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we're going to talk about 16 a lot more because I think you and Scott actually agree a little bit more on 16 than I do. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where we all stand about that. A couple other things to kind of mention. Obviously, Corey Ellis getting the monkey off his back. He ended up losing D'Lo in a playoff, which I wouldn't really consider like a choke. Like that whole one tee shot, that's a very tough tee shot. So he has ended up throwing OB. Kind of gave Calvin the ability just to play for par and win it. MVP was a choke job, 100%. Yeah. It was basically the same distance, 250, 230. All you need to do is throw a forehand into the green, and you're an MVP Open champion. And complete choke job. And I'm very curious to hear.
Wasn't he there in Portland too? Right there.
He's been close. I mean, Portland, he was out of position on his tee shot, and so you go for like crazy
last hole. He's right.
Yeah, it was just he felt like Aaron was gonna birdie, so he felt like he eagled from a really bad spot. So
still a tough loss to watch Adam.
Yes,
actually win, and he could have done the same thing type deal to get into the playoff
for sure.
So
I'm sure it
loss.
didn't feel good. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't feel. But MVP Open was definitely the one that was just my gosh, dude. I probably got 99 out of 100 times. This was the craziest stat of the tournament. He left field with only 2 OB strokes. And those includes the bunker because I played with him. Here's the thing too. I saw both OB strokes. He played with me in round 1. I saw both OB strokes that he threw. After he threw those 2 OB strokes, he never threw OB again.
That's 17.
What's that?
I had 17.
I don't know how many I had. I had a lot. The next closest in the top 10. Okay, so literally the people that played the tournament the best. The next closest, Dickerson, who finished, I believe, like 7th or 8th, had 7. So he beat the next closest by 5. I mean, that's nuts.
I will also say, I think the scoring was lower than I expected.
Yeah, the course was definitely harder than last year.
Higher, lower. It wasn't as low as it was the year before, as far as like 40 under or whatever, 40 something under. And I thought that was surprising. I said before the tournament started, I thought 8s would have give you a chance, and that's what he averaged, 8s, right, all the way through. I thought it would be a little bit more, like 2 strokes more, 3 strokes more, would have got it done, a couple 10s and then a couple 8s. So I thought it was a little bit lower than I expected, but that might also be because we didn't have the closers in the mix that usually drop the 12, the 11, the 10. Like you put Ricky on that lead card, Macbeth, Calvin, and them all play together. What is your opinion? Do you think they go lower than 8, 7, 6? I think so.
Yeah, it depends. I guess it just kind of depends too. I'm not a super firm believer that.
When's the last time you saw major championship somebody win the tournament without going super low?
I think 10 under was kind of super low for that tournament, though. I think obviously what Paul.
Oh, right. I got stuck on the average. Average.
Because I was gonna say, I think what Eagle and Paul did last year was just crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I do think the course played a little bit harder. I think they made it a little bit harder with the changes.
I agree.
They made a couple holes longer, so the birdies were a little bit trickier on some of them. And then I think the weather too, like the first day, some of those guys had to play in the rain and the wind on 15 through 18. I know the final day for us, it didn't really affect the leaders at all, but the final day for us sucked. We got like
downpour.
We got through like 4 holes, and then it just like was a monsoon for an hour, and you're standing there. Your whole hands got like damp to where you had the most tacky. I couldn't get I threw 3 forehands that were so bad because my fingers just had like the tackiest tack on them. It was nuts. But yeah, I think conditions were maybe a little bit trickier, but I think what Paul and Eagle did last year, they were on a completely different level. And just, that's super calm.
That was just a dumb comment by me, because I was thinking that for some reason Corey went 8 because that's what I had in my head. So that's silly. And unders around. Yeah.
Okay. I want to go through a few more of these things, and then we'll bring in Calvin here. Corey was 3rd in the field from C2 putting. He putted really well from C2 putting. He made 6 of 13 putts from D2. And the other thing I want to mention before, I think Calvin might be with us. We'll get confirmation from Silas here in a second. But the other thing I want to mention too, last 3 majors here. This is from Sando here. The last 3 MPO major winners have all been first-time major winners. You have Corey Ellis taking down the European Open. Isaac Robinson dominated the Champions Cup this year. And then Gannon Burr last year at USDGC taking it down. The last time this happened was Greg Barsby, Eagle McMahon, and Nate Sexton doing World's Kona Peach Day in USDGC. I think this kind of just goes to show what we've been talking about all season. There are so many good players, and there are so many players now that can just have a good week. And we saw that this week with Corey, and he's almost been able to do it multiple times, but winning is so hard that you're going to see guys kind of just pop off and take it. Silas, do we have Calvin, or should I keep going here? Okay. While we wait for Calvin, Europeans, Yuli, did not show up at this tournament. They were there, but they weren't on the leaderboard. You have 2 Europeans in the top 15. The other were all Americans. You have Rino Makalov and Yammer Fredrickson, the little 16-year-old, I believe, that I played with first round. Absolute kill of a kid. Albert Tom kind of made a little bit of a push there. I think he was on lead card after round 2. But he did his 3rd round. He just did not play, did not show up, shot 67 and just plummeted down the leaderboard. The favorites, Nicholas Untila, Lori Lettinen, and Jakob Simrad, never really got anything going. None of them were really ever in contention. And my guy that I said to watch out for at this tournament, Mari Vilma, I believe, finished T17. But he did have the second lowest round of the tournament in round 3. So take that for what you want. But yeah, Europeans,
Vino.
Well, Vino finished in 15th, so he was the highest European.
But he was right there. He was on the second card, final day. So, I believe, yeah, he was.
Was he second or third?
I thought he was second.
I could be. You might be right. You might be right. Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those where I think the tournament would have had a little bit more of a kick if there was a European in contention, because like you said, they were going nuts for their locals there, and I think there would have been one that was kind of in contention down the stretch. I think it would have been a little more dramatic, I guess you could say. All right, we'll pull in Calvin here. We got Calvin. I believe you're in Illinois right now, Calvin. Are you not?
Yep, I am. I'm in Illinois. Flew back into Chicago late Monday and drove down to Peoria yesterday. So I'm just hanging down in Peoria right now.
Nice. Yeah, Ezra texted me, said he saw you on the course out there the other day. So I will be joining you up there shortly. But we appreciate you coming back on Tour Life. I want to just kind of jump into it right away. Thoughts after this past weekend. You've had a couple days to kind of digest now. What are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, pretty disappointing when I played the last round, I guess. Not like a whole lot of, I guess, positives for me to take. Like, I really didn't feel control of where I was throwing the disc there for the majority of the round. So, me personally, not super stoked, but, I think it's just trying to figure out why it was that way for me, and then trying to correct that for the future. But the tournament as a whole was pretty awesome. It's always fun to go over there, the European Open. Biggest crowds that we really get to see in disc golf. It's kind of like the park is kind of in the city center of Nokia, and you just got people flooding into the parks, and it's pretty awesome. Really, really cool environment to play in. Just but yeah, me personally, I'm still a little frustrated with just really how I performed there coming down the final round.
Yeah, I want to jump into that a little bit. Dig a little bit more into that. What was it specifically that was the big difference? Because round 3, you had course record shredded on the front 9. And me and you were kind of talking about front 9 was the holes that's like you got to get out and get those birdies. What do you think the big difference was between front 9 of round 3 and the front 9 of round 4? I believe you shot even par on the front 9 in your final round.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just, I don't know, I wasn't throwing the disc anywhere close to as well. I mean, I think so round 3, I threw the disc extremely well. Like, I didn't even make every putt that I had in front of me, and I shot I think 12 down. So like I was just throwing the disc really well, and I had to look at almost every single hole for birdie out during that round. I think like maybe I wasn't putting for birdie on, I guess it would have been like 18, and the only one I can think of off the top of my head is like hole 6 maybe. So like I was basically putting on, the majority of holes. So in that final round, I don't know, I didn't have it. I just did not have it. Whatever it was, forehand and backhand just were a little off. And I don't feel like that course is like extremely demanding as far as like the shots it's asking you to throw. But as soon as you're not executing the simple shots, it really does become pretty difficult. You end up out of position, and scoring becomes pretty difficult.
I mean, I feel like the obvious question that to ask you is that everybody's like kind of wondering is like, are you putting too much pressure on yourself for the major championship? I mean, if you're in contention, this time you have a lead. Do you think that that has something to do with it? And if so, like, what is that battle like in your mind? And obviously you're trying to figure it out for the next time so you can fix it. But at this point in your career, everybody knows, including yourself, that's the feather you're missing in your cap. And the hurdle that you kind of got to get past.
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider it pressure. Honestly, I've been taking a look. You know, I had a lot of time. I had a bunch of layovers and flights to get back, and I thought quite a bit about it. And I don't think the pressure I'm putting on myself is too much, because I don't think that's really the issue. I mean, I can look back at like the last month of tournaments, and I'm not happy with how I've closed out any of them. So like, it's not just this last tournament that really is my issue. I think what I've started to think it might be is I think I've spent, maybe going in the final round, I'm thinking too much about the bigger picture and like winning and what that can do for me and what, rather than sticking with the basics and just focusing on how do I get there, one shot at a time. Like, the bigger picture doesn't really matter if you're not going to go through the steps to get there. So I don't know. I think it's definitely just got to be like a mindset thing, because I feel like I've been in contention for like the last like 5 tournaments or something like that.
Every tournament, I think. It seems like.
Sorry about the dryer there.
No, all right.
But yeah, I think it's a bigger issue than just like the major championships. I mean, you look back the past month, and I haven't been able to close any of them out, and I've been close enough to possibly strike at all of them.
Was there a moment of where, like in the final round, was there a moment where you were like, well, crap, I'm out. I can't win this anymore. And then that kind of freed you, because you ended up only being 3 shots, off of potentially a playoff, and you ended up birding 4 of the last 6 holes. So you played really well, finishing it in, but you were even par through, I believe, 12. You were even through 12. So did you feel like there was a moment in time where you're just like, well, I can't win anymore, and it freed you up to start playing well? Or did it just end up being that way of where you found, you throw or whatever off the tee that you were kind of missing at the beginning of the round?
Yeah, I mean, that might have something to do with it. I guess there was definitely a point where you just don't really feel like you have much of a chance. So I guess, I don't know. It might have been somewhere around then where you just realize there's really not enough time left to catch anyone, or there's too many people ahead of you even, and it's just like not realistic for all of them to mess up.
Yeah.
With 6 to go, I don't really know how many Anthony had me by, but like the probability of like catching him and Corey, and I don't even know how many other people had hopped me at that point, were just like pretty low. So I guess it probably could be freeing to some extent, but I think it's also just like you're in that moment, and it's not necessarily, you're not really freeing yourself. You're still just trying to figure out why you can't hit a line to save your life or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what happened there coming down the end, but like, I guess like the first shot that I can think of that like I truly threw, and I was like, wow, that was good, was, like my approach on hole, I guess it would have been 13, not even that great of a tee shot. I was short, and I was there, and I threw a hyzer up and around, and it got me up into the circles. And like that was the first time like I felt like I really like connected with the disc. I mean, like the hole before, threw a great roller, and then like tucked it into the one tree. Like I'm down there, got like a standstill putter into the green essentially, and managed to shank that even. So like, I'm not exactly sure what clicked at the end, but I was definitely throwing the disc quite a bit better coming down the last whatever 6. But I'm not sure if it had to do with like, just realizing there was no pressure anymore. You already had lost it. I don't know. I guess I haven't heard too much about that.
Any thoughts on potentially having like a caddy in the future? Do you think that is something that could help, or is it just too difficult to maybe have someone, because like someone that jumps off to me is like a Zach Melton, right? Like I think having like a Zach Melton on your bag probably doesn't hurt you at all. If only thing can help you. But finding like a good caddy that's not playing as well is can be challenging at times. So what are your thoughts on like having someone carry your bag and maybe someone there that can kind of just bounce ideas off or just talk in between shots?
Yeah, I think there is some merit to that. I just think like there's quite a bit. Most of the time, it's just I personally just kind of like it to be by myself, and I just find it easier to internalize and figure out what's wrong on my own rather than having the caddy. I think someone like Zach definitely could help me for sure. He knows my game just as well as me. So, he definitely is someone who has carried my bag and has caddied for me in the past. But in general, I don't think there's enough people that I guess I would even say I'd like trust that much to like bounce my ideas off of or, trust what they have to say. At this point, I think, I don't know, I guess like finding a good caddy isn't really, I guess it depends on what you're looking for, but I don't know if it's like the easiest thing in disc golf right now. I don't.
And you're not someone that needs to like have conversations with other people on your card. You can play around well by just being by yourself and just playing. There are those people that have to like kind of be talking, and they'll find the other person on the card that's willing to listen to them talk. That's not you, right? Like you're able to, is that right? Or do you want to be able to kind of, break it up with the other guys on the card?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could go either way. I don't think it's like, especially going into like a final round, I don't think, and maybe not even the final round, but I mean, there's generally a point in time where no one really wants to be talking too much to each other. It's, especially when you're going head to head with whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people, it gets kind of tense at the end. But yeah, I don't think I need necessarily to be out there talking to people. I definitely do when I'm playing, but it's not something I feel like I need.
You have to
kind of depends
be able
on
to play
who's
well.
on the card. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I played with him second round, and we had a good time. We were chatting it up, and but nobody was really playing that good on our card. And then Calvin just like shoots an 8 or a 9 or something out of nowhere. But that was a fun card. I felt like you talked quite a bit that round. You know what I mean? And I think it's a big difference, like you were saying, between first, second round. Once you get into the third and fourth round, it's game time.
A little more serious.
Yeah, it's a lot more serious. You got a little more focus, probably.
Yeah, makes sense. Any thoughts on I think a big storyline that ended up folding during that final round was Paul DNFing and then jumping on AB's bag mid-round. Was that any weirdness to the vibe changing or anything? I think there were some people that mentioned they wanted to know like what that was like having Paul kind of, because Paul's got a big presence, right? It's not just like AB's girlfriend or AB's friend jumps on the bag. It's, one of the greatest to ever play the game. Was that something that kind of changed it a little bit or no?
Not really for me. I think Paul showed up. I don't know. It might have been around like 6 or 7 or something. And like, I didn't really change anything for me. I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me at that point. So I didn't really talk too much with him during the round. He was kind of over there helping AB, and they were talking through, I'm not exactly sure. I know there were some moments where they were talking through some shots and whatnot, but I was definitely a little more focused on myself.
Gotcha. That'll be an interesting question to ask Corey, I guess, when he comes on here, to see if that was any sort of interestingness, just kind of having someone like that jump on. One thing I want to ask, what were your thoughts on hole 11? I deemed that as the only bad hole in the entire course.
Yeah, it's got to be the worst hole on the course. I'm not a huge fan of it. Honestly, I didn't really get punished by it this year, but I really feel like it's kind of a dice roll, and like it's pretty much, a lot of times you throw it up there and you're not that much different than someone else's, and you could get a 2 or a 4, and not a huge fan of it. I'm not entirely sure I even like play that hole that safe. It pretty much just seems like you have to go for it, and if you get lucky, you get a birdie, and if you don't, you end up out of bounds in that little pond. But I think the hole needs some revising, or tree trimming or something, because currently I feel like it's a pretty big momentum shift, going into that last stretch of the course, and I'm just not, like, I just feel like shots that aren't that different, and like it's hard to even tell what you're doing right or wrong. So I just feel like it's an abnormally harsh punishment.
Do you think it evens itself out, since we're playing it 4 times, of where you get lucky sometimes and not lucky others?
I don't think like 4 data points is really enough to like hit like some kind of like normal curve. Like it's just like you could just get you could get unlucky and you could literally go out of bounds every round. I don't think four rounds is enough rounds to like hit where like a nice average where you should be. I think sometimes you're gonna get lucky. Like I think I might have played that hole like a couple under par this past weekend, and that's
really
way
good.
better than
Yeah.
I would have expected. And like I feel like there's plenty of people out there that probably played it like 3 or 4 over, and they probably didn't throw that much worse than me. Like the shot I threw in the final round was awful, but it happened to hit a tree and stay in bounds, and I got a 3 out of it. But yeah, I think that's probably the worst hole on the course. There's not really a whole lot of decision making to be made. You just kind of throw and hope.
It's a tough hole too, because on a hole like that where it's like so fluky coming into the green, you would at least like to like guarantee a par. There should be a play to where you're like, all right, well, I'm just gonna get a par and get out of here, because I don't want the 4, and I don't want to chase the luck factor and get the get a bogey or a 2. But there's really no way to play that. Like if you play like a spike hyzer like short, then you have like this tricky little sidearm flex or a spike hyzer over the top, like or it's usually a right to left crosswind. If you throw that shorter shot, the telephone poles are kind of in the way, so that creates like another flukiness. Like your best play is like a putter straight shot. You're like there's like you have to go for it. There's like no other option.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Some people in the chat were saying maybe just not have OB on the left, to where you just bail out into the trees and brush over there, and maybe have to scramble a little bit to try to save par. But that was really, it's like hole 11's up here, the worst hole, and then like the next worst hole is like it'd be hard for me to even come up with, but it's so far down. Like there's just hole eight's not. Yeah, hole 8's not great, just because it's almost an auto birdie. But I still think
9.
Hole 9's a kind of, I mean, there's a couple holes in the front 9, but it's not even close to hole 11. So, okay, so moving forward now, right? You are, I think at this point, there's no argument really for another player to be number 1 in the world, regardless of whatever world ranking you look at, which I think you might be actually number 1 in all of them. That's pretty much unanimous at this point. So moving forward, other than picking up a major at either World or USCGC, what goals do you kind of have set out for you this season, the rest of the season? Like, what do you value? What is it to you that really kind of gets you going for the rest of the season?
I guess I don't know if I have set goals. I think, currently it's just figuring out how to mentally approach the final rounds of tournaments differently. That's currently, the biggest thing I need to figure out. But yeah, I mean, there's no I don't have any explicit goals as far as winning a tournament or whatnot. I really want to, I can feel like a lot of the time the way I approach tournaments is a little more simple. I just want to play the best I can. And I want to try to take that round by round. And I feel like when I do that and I just keep my head in it and I don't give up, I give myself a chance to be there at the end almost every time, which is what I want to do. So I think it's really just mentally staying in it and, hopefully, overcoming whatever mental barriers I'm currently facing, in a final round, at least play a good round, whether or not that comes out with a win or not.
You think there's a Calvin in there that can just straight dominate, just win tournaments by 10? Because when I look at your game and I see how you play some rounds, at least one round of tournament, you're just birdieing everything. And you're coming in with a 13, 12, 14 under par, something like that, which kind of gets you back into it. And you're on the final round lead card or whatever. Have you ever been the type of player to just run away and shoot 4 of those? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, aside from your local B tier or whatever. And I think it's a pretty tough thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does it. But
days.
if there, sorry, but to my point, I feel like if there was somebody who could do that, I would say that you would be one of those people, because I don't know. I feel like when you're on, it's just so effortless and nonchalant, and then you're just birdieing everything. You're making your putts, and if I'm being honest, I feel like your game is really simple with how tight you throw the disc. You know what I mean? So, holes aren't tough. I feel like your game is so consistent in the shot selections that you have that that's something that we could see.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, feel like I'm capable of birdieing, almost every hole we play on tour. And, as I've gotten more comfortable with the forehand, I feel like it's made it even easier to birdie holes, and I've become more comfortable on holes that I wasn't before. So whether or not I can put that together for 3 or 4 straight rounds, I mean, that's the hard part. It's definitely possible. I think it could be possible. And I think even if I was able to put together 2 or 3 of those rounds for the beginning of the tournament, I think it would definitely be more possible that, you could put together that last round, because, if you put together, 3 incredible rounds in a row, you're going to have such a sizable lead going to the final round. There's literally no pressure. It's you're just going to be out there playing a practice round, essentially.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's possible, but I really feel like it's possible for a lot of players on tour these days, because there's so many people that can throw all the shots, but yeah, doing it is just the hard part.
Yeah, I would say too, the courses have a lot to do with that, because what you said, Calvin, about this course, I think is completely right on. If you're on, if you're just throwing your shots, you're just going to shred. But as soon as you miss a shot, that's when you can actually take a number. And I think that's a good hole, right? Is where it punishes bad shots off the tee. And I think a lot of the courses are starting to go away from letting players just spray it off the tee and go wherever and be able to still make birdies. That was not the case on a lot of the holes out here. We saw it from everyone, of where if you were out of position after your tee shot and you were still trying to play for a birdie, that's when those big numbers, start showing up on the scorecard. All right, let's change gears a little bit. Let's get into some questions that really matter. The questions that people really want to know. How do you decide what hairstyle you're going with? What's the thought process there?
The hairstyle. I think this hair is the length of it's generally a function of how hot it is. I don't know, when it starts to get a little longer and it starts to get really hot, it's got to go. I might.
Does that mean we're seeing Fro Calvin potentially at MVP this year? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how hot the Midwest is there for the next couple weeks. It's really hot right now here in Illinois, so it's hard to think I'll make it all the way to Massachusetts and beyond, but it's definitely possible. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of thought that goes into it. It's really just a matter of how hot it is outside.
Are you like a big haircut guy? Because I feel like Yuli, you're a haircut guy. Like you go in and you give them like, this is what I want. I want this on the sides. Do this on the top. I style it right. Like you kind of have a stylish hair. Calvin, are you more like me where it's just like I show up and I'm just like, take it all off. And then I'll just grow it out for 3 months, 4 months, and then I do the same thing. I never was really a haircut guy. I'm
not a haircut guy. I tell them, give me a one.
I've seen you with fresh cuts. You have fresh cuts.
Give me a one and take it as high as you can. That's what I say, and then take some off the top. That's my haircut. Give me a one as high as you can.
You have fresh cuts. Do not play that.
Yeah, it's really just take it off. I don't know. I'll go in there and say like, give me a 2 or 3 on the sides and just scissors on the top. And they ask me what that means, and I say, "Can you tell me what that means?"
I like getting my hair cut in Finland a lot because the language barrier was really difficult, and I already have a really hard time with like explaining what to do with my hair because I don't know, and so it made it just way easier for me to just be like, just cut it, just do it. I don't want the repercussions on me on that. Okay, another question. This is one I think actually from Reddit. Someone on Reddit wants to know: has the Toro completely replaced your Rhino in your bag?
No, I still bag a Rhino. I still use it for a lot of backhand approaches. It's like significantly slower and I guess not as overstable. I still really like it for like little touchy, floaty backhand approaches. So still bag the Rhino, but the Toro is great for, longer shots and then all the little forehands into the green as well.
Nice. Another one, what is your, this is always a fascinating one to me because most of the time, we don't have like practice facilities. We don't have an area where, after a round or before a round, you're on the putting green or there's a nice driving range. Most of these courses we play don't have that. So we don't really get to see what other people are doing outside of them actually being on the course. So do you want to kind of break down what a typical Monday through Wednesday looks like leading into, let's say Ledgestone coming up here next week? What is your Monday through Wednesday like practice regimen will look like? What is that? Give us kind of a picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, so some of it's going to depend on, how the week prior went. During the season, I don't do very much field work. That's something that kind of gets neglected unless I'm trying to work a new disc into the bag. Or I'm trying to find like a disc, in the bins that I have that I need to kind of fill in a slot. I'll go out to a field and I'll throw a bunch of those, but it's not like explicitly working on form. But like a normal tournament, like this week, I'm here like really early, but I'll go out there and I'm playing around to kind of learn the course, figure out what I want to throw on the holes, and then I'll spend like 45 minutes on a basket practice putting. And I think some of that is all, like it all varies time-wise. There could be more or less time spent on the practice basket depending on how you're feeling on the green, and then also just like how comfortable you're feeling on the course. Like it may be more important for me to go back out and, try to game plan 3 specific holes that are bothering me or whatnot. So
you seem like you're like the type of putter that like goes to the course to practice putting, and then you just like make your first like 22 putts, and you're like, all right, I'm why am I here? I'm good.
I'm dialed.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Or do you actually grind on the putting green, or are you that type of person to where you're just like, all right, I'm still good at putting. I'm gonna go play.
Yeah, it really just depends. It depends on the week, but there are times where I spend a good amount of time on the green. I think sometimes it's almost like you can kind of get into a rhythm on the practice green to where, you know, it's almost relaxing in a way. It almost becomes like mindless. But I don't know. You still have to like focus and make it, but make the practice worth it. But I would say there's a lot of weeks where there isn't a whole lot of time spent on the practice green, just because I feel comfortable with it, and I feel like it's more important for me to be out there, you know, game planning my tee shots on the course so that I even have a chance to get on the green and use the putt.
What would you recommend if you got to a hole that was giving you a lot of trouble with, it was, you know, let's say it's a very specific shot of where it's like a late hyzer flipping turnover shot with the backhand. Do you like to just throw a couple discs and try to figure out which one is the right disc and then go get them and then head back and then throw it again and kind of repeat that process on that hole? Or do you think it's better to like go to a field and practice that specific shot over and over again in a field?
There's definitely a lot of merit to going out to the field, like throwing your discs on all kinds of different angles and kind of seeing how they react, and then you can like apply that to the course. I think like one of the biggest jumps that I've ever really had in rating is, and just like overall skill level, was when I was my first semester in college. I didn't have a car up there. I didn't have a way to like drive to a course, but you know, I was in a dorm, and I had a field out behind the dorm, and so like the only way I really got to play disc golf was.
You want to say what dorm you were in?
I was in Simpson.
Okay.
Yeah.
We went to the same school, Yuli. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Go Gators, man.
Yep, go Gators. But I think as far as like what we're doing, and like with the limited amount of time you have, I think like the results, I don't know, I guess the short-term results are probably going to be better by just spending the time on the course and figuring out that specific shot. But if you are struggling with something, going out to the field and just throwing your discs on different angles and learning what they do is pretty huge. But like a lot of times, like, you know, when Zach Mellon's out on the road or something, like if we're having issues with a hole, or if it's a specific hole, I'll throw and he'll throw them back to me, and we'll continue to do that until you get it figured out. Because I think there is also something, it's like I walk up to a hole and I can visualize the line, and I know I can make it happen. But if I don't physically do it at any practice, like how strongly do you believe that you are going to execute that shot, and is it even worth trying at that point? So I think there's like a pretty huge benefit to like seeing the shot you want to throw and seeing it work before you actually execute it in the tournament.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about late tee times, not just being actually in contention, but also if I did struggle on a hole, I don't have to wait that long to be able to go back out in the course and like practice that hole. Where if you have like a morning tee time, you have to like almost completely do your cool down and then re-warm up once everyone's kind of done playing and go back out there. But I've done that at a couple of events this year of where maybe a hole, it's just I can't figure it out, and I struggled with it during that round. And I definitely like being able to go back out on that hole later in the day once everyone's done playing and get some more throws on it. So yeah, it's just, I would say it's tougher to do that closer to tournament time because the course just starts getting busier and busier. It's tough to like just spend a lot more time on the actual hole. All right, well, we'll let you get going here. Do you have any new pet peeves Maybe something that you picked up while you were over in Europe. It could be even not disc golf. It could be the fact of
I got one. I really hate it when you're over there and like, you know, it never really gets dark and the curtains they supply you in your room just like
eye mask, brother.
Don't fully make the room dark. Like what's up with that? Like, how are you supposed to sleep when it's like daylight outside all the time?
This is the first time I've seen nighttime in 2 weeks.
I know, it's great.
Awesome.
Like, I got back to the States and I was like, oh my God, the sun actually goes away.
The other thing too is just having like air conditioning is something that I think we really take for granted here in the States. Because over there, you know, it gets so cold most of the year, it makes no sense to really have air conditioning, I guess. But it is definitely nice coming back from around, you know, right now I think it's like 115 degrees, I think is what I practiced in today. I almost passed out. But it's nice coming back into like a climate controlled room of where it's like 70 degrees versus we were just going back and I was just like sweating inside. I was like, no one touch me, no one get close to me. Let me just sit here and cool off. Yeah, that's a good one. The other one I was gonna say too, this was more just traveling, airport traveling. There's just some cultures that when they line up for lines, if there's space in between you and the person in front of you, that's not okay. Like you're getting passed. And it's just a very I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but like in the States, like personal space, I think is something that some people get really pissed off at, to where if you're 2 inches and breathing down the person's neck in front of you, they're going to turn around, like give you that look. But if you're not like super close to people and, you know, when you're traveling and stuff, there's going to be someone that is just going to like literally just get right in between the two of you. And then you're just like, all right, well,
you know what we have to do? We have to stop with the get up right away when you land, grab your stuff, and rip pat. I'm like,
what are we doing, man?
Because this happened today. I swear. I'm like sitting there. They're all up. They're all like looking at me like, can I go? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. They go, and then it's like, like 10 people go. I'm like, I let one guy go. Then I get my bag. Finally, I get off. I walk out the door, and they're all right there. They're right there in front of me. Like, we're all here in the same spot. Why did you guys all have to pass me?
If you want to see a video that'll blow your mind, and Calvin, you'll probably enjoy this with your engineering background. If you look up, this person's done like tons of like animation on like traffic flow and also of like things like in that. They did a video on the best way to board and unboard a plane. And it's very fascinating. Like they do the back to front, they do the windows and then aisle, they do all these things. And the results on like what they found out would be the fastest way is pretty fascinating. So I don't know what you would search on YouTube to find it. Maybe just like best way to board an airplane. And then just for the one that's like animated with little block people. But yeah,
and then just spam email it to every single person on the planet, please.
Yes. Please let everyone. Well, here's the thing, Yuli. People are flying for the first time. Like that's a weird concept to me, but for the end of like literally for the rest of our lives, we'll be in airports with people that are flying for the first time.
But I feel like those would be the people who would be like sitting and be like,
no, they don't know what's going on. They get to the security. They get to the security thing and they freeze. They don't know what they're doing. They just stand there like this, and you're just like,
I hate to call her out, but this was hilarious. We get customs, and you know how the security guard asks you, all right, how long you been here for? Where were you? And she just froze. She was like, we were in
send her to the back. we need to frisk this person.
He's like, and she just completely froze. She couldn't get anything out. She's like, we're in Finland, I think. I'm like, we went to Helsinki. She was in Helsinki. I was in Norway, and then we got through it. But it was just so funny because she was like, I wasn't expecting them to ask me questions like that.
I almost saw someone get shot because they were trying to pet one of the drug dogs. They're like, "Oh, such a cute." She's like, "Don't touch the dog, working." And she's like, she just froze. She didn't know how to respond. Man, a lot of travel stories. All right, well, Calvin, we'll let you go, brother. I think also Calvin might be joining me and Ezra for a video as well, potentially, if it works out. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, thank you for joining the show. Everyone, make sure you follow him on Instagram. That's where you post pretty much everything, right? You're not a Twitter person yet, are you?
No, not yet.
I feel like if you got on Twitter, it'd just be game over, dude. You'd be tweeting all day. You should do Twitter where you just tweet one tweet a day at like 10 a.m. and everyone's just ready. Like they can't wait to see what Calvin tweets at 10 a.m. and just see what happens. I bet you'd blow up.
Maybe we'll start. We'll see.
Well, everyone go to Calvin's Instagram and post on his last Instagram post that he needs to start tweeting. Well, actually, it's not even tweeting anymore. They just turned it to X. Maybe that's more your style. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Look how trash this is now. Wait, let me. Oh, I don't know if you can see it on the app. Yeah, they just rebranded it. It's no longer like the little birdie tweet. It's just like an X thing. It's very strange. Very strange.
I like the little bird.
It is. I think people want to see Calvin on Twitter though. So we'll leave you with that, Calvin. You can think about your final rounds and you can think about what you're going to tweet. That can be extra
how you're
stuff
going to board
for
and
you.
unboard airplanes.
And I actually want to hear what you think about that. So please let me know if you do end up watching the video. Let me know what you think about it. And also please watch Tenet so you can explain it to me. All right. That is Calvin Heimburg, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining, man. We'll see you next time, brother. I'll see you up there in a few days.
Bro, do you know what I watched? I watched the Holmes movies.
Is that Sherlock Holmes for sure?
Eleanor, what was it? The ones with
who? What did you say? Holmes, like Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, the Sherlock Holmes movies, but with the girl, and she's the sister of Sherlock Holmes. They're on Netflix.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I watched The Witcher.
I'm watching that right now for sure.
Yeah, new episodes come out tomorrow, brother.
Yeah.
All right, we got Corey. So we'll throw Corey in right now. We got first time major champion, European Open winner, Corey Ellis. How does that sound, man? That's feel good.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. It really is. It's a dream come true.
Also, you might win. Sorry, Yuli, but you might win the best backdrop that we've ever had on the show.
Yeah, where's that?
Yeah, where are you?
I'm at my apartment. This is our spare bedroom.
Oh my! How many discs do you have in there?
I don't know.
Are those all like potential backups, or a lot of those just like you'll never throw again?
Yeah, backups and like, that whole rack over like right here is all Molly's discs, and there's backups and collectibles and all kinds of stuff from over here.
Well, speaking of Molly, I think everyone wants to know how is her hand?
She's good. She's so tired of having people ask that question.
I think from now on the question will be over. It's the hand's fine, moving forward, and I'm sure if you asked her, she would gladly take a nice hard high five with you winning your first major. I think it's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I want to start with is if you go and look, because we ended up playing round one together, and if I just took a small portion of your round one and I said, what place, I didn't say who it was, I just showed what place do you think this person finished? And I don't know if you know the holes I'm talking about, but if I showed that hole 15, 16, 17, what do you think? What do you think the average person would say that you probably finished in the tournament? Do they think that you made the cut?
Oh yeah, probably not.
Yeah. And to just let everyone know that, because obviously we played together, hole 15 you took a bogey, hole 16 you took a double bogey, Hole 17, you took a double bogey.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time. Hole 17, round 1. That was the last time you shot over par on a hole.
Yeah, you remember that the putt for par that spit straight back out.
Yes, and rolled down.
Yeah.
You threw 2 OB shots, one of which was a spit out roll down. It wasn't even really an OB shot.
Yeah, and then my other OB was the
tee shot on 16.
Oh.
Right or no?
No, I guess I don't know if they did.
Does that count as bunker? I guess maybe bunker rule doesn't count.
I don't think
it counts as an OB.
Yeah,
no, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't.
So my other OB was round 3 on hole 3. I threw my tee shot OB and I got up and down.
You got up and down, yeah, for birdie there, yeah. So, I mean, that's nuts right there. Of where, you had that stretch, and I think this is where it's an interesting one, because you had your really bad stretch of holes in round 1, and then you just played flawlessly. And I think if you could pick and choose, you probably would want it that way, right? You'd want to get your bad holes out of the way early, versus the opposite of where you have a lead coming down the stretch and then all of a sudden you just can't get the disc in the basket, right? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anytime you would, I've heard Simon say that some of the best rounds he's ever shot has been started with a bogey off hole 1, and I think anybody would say, if you're going to bogey the first 3 holes, you finish with 6 birdies, they would take that all day,
Yeah.
Do you think that's the best you've ever shot? Like in a 3 round in 3 rounds, like obviously not round 1, but then after that, is that the best golf that you've ever played, like back to back rounds?
Oh, well, as far as, I don't know about the best golf I've ever played back to back like that, but I would say I don't think I've ever gone bogey free in a tournament, let alone a major. Like that many holes in any tournament.
And this is also not like a course that's like, if you went bogey free at Preserve, I'd be like, whatever, not that impressive. Bogey free at Jonesboro, wow, good job. Like not impressive. There are so many holes that going to be, I mean, how did you hold 11? How did you play hole 11? How did you not go OB1 on that hole?
I don't know. So I played one of the practice.
No one knows.
I don't know. I played one of the practice ones with Sexton, and he kind of pointed out like the only kind of consistent gap you can try to hit, and it's like not even a full power, hyzer that everybody's trying to throw. You kind of throw it over that little bush and let it hyzer in front of it, and there's actually a little gap in between the trees. Mm-hmm. But you come up short, and it's not parked. And but round 2, I actually threw it around all the trees because I didn't like how the wind was, and I was worried it was gonna something funky. So I just literally ripped it as hard as I could and went past the trees and made a putt. But I birdied that all 4 rounds. I was like, holy crap! Yeah.
Here's your winner.
And I was, when I went back and looked, like I didn't even realize it until after I went back and looked at the scores. I was like, I birdied 10 and 11 all 4 rounds.
10's a good get too. Yeah, 10's a real good get.
11's impossible.
Well, apparently not, Yuli. Apparently you need to play it like Corey was playing it. Go back and watch the tapes.
I can't throw it past the trees, okay?
Well, you need to do what that Anakin Stein girl did, which she just like threw like a hyzer flip laser beam straight at the basket and parked it. It was ridiculous. That's a scary shot though. All right, walk us through. I just want to know your mindset of like literally tee all the way to green, hole 16. Just kind of walk us through what was going on from the get-go all the way to the green.
Okay, so if you know how I play, I never check the scores when I'm playing during a round until it's coming down near the end of the tournament, and I need to see if I need to do something. And, you have to know what the scores are in that situation. So I told Molly the day before, the night before the tournament, the last round, and I told her at hole 15, after I throw my tee shot, I'll check the scores. Because I'm committing to that tee shot no matter what. I'm throwing it straight at it. That's my shot. So whatever happens from there, we'll figure it out. And I saw that AB had 2 strokes, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was up first off the tee, and he throws a shot, and it almost went OB. It was right next to the OB, and I was like, all right, this is your chance. You have to put it closer and put the pressure on him to throw his shot before you.
Love that.
And to see what happens. And that's what I ended up doing. And actually, I think that Kyle throwing onto the green before even AB threw kind of helped give me the confidence by seeing that a shot went on the green. You know what I mean? Because the backhand hyzer. Just maybe
because he basically had the same kind of a line, I guess, as you, just further back, and then AB was like more to the side of where he almost had like a straight on shot.
Yeah, I bushnelled mine at 280, and he was probably 30 feet behind me.
Yeah, he was probably just over 300 feet. So he steps up. Are you already in your head thinking he's going to park this? I need to park it. Like he's going to land it. Is that what's going through your head right now? It's like, he's going to do it, so I need to do it?
No, I don't think there was anything. I literally was like, it was weird because once I got up to 15 and I threw that tee shot, it was like almost an outer body experience for the rest of the round. It was like, especially like walking to, after I threw my approach shot to the basket, like I don't even remember really walking that. It's really weird. Because, like I know it sounds crazy because there's so much pressure in that shot, but I had told myself, like, you've thrown a 280-foot zone hyzer a million times. There's nothing different about it right now. Just throw the shot. And I swear I didn't really feel any pressure in that shot. As crazy as that sounds.
Now, you were laying up previous rounds, weren't you?
Yes.
And so going into 16, where it was a go green light the whole time from tee to green, or after you saw AB do what he did, was it a green light go?
It was after I saw AB land inbounds. I was like, you're gonna have to throw it on the green, and then because if I play the layup shot, I'm throwing short of that road, and I'm just throwing a captain's raptor.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So while AB is like throwing, are you just completely zoned out? You're not. You're not reacting at all to what's going on.
I was like zoned out for the first 2, and then after he threw again and it went long, I think they show me go back and look at the scores, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are the scores? Where's everyone else like behind me? Like, Kyle is only a stroke behind me or whatever, so, and he just on there, so that means we tie if I play for par. And so I was like, well, that settles it. I have to throw on the green. And yeah,
because it wasn't a situation where it was like just you and AB, right? Of where AB just kind of blows up, and now you're like, oh, if I just play clean the next 3 holes, it's fine. You had to go out and get it still. You had a birdie 16, you had a birdie 17, and the way that played out on 18, it was nice enough to where you only had to play that for par, but that could have changed as well, based on what Eagle did or what Ezra did on 17. So yeah, it wasn't this like just gift of where you got through 16 and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, well, no pressure at all. Stepping up on 17, you're thinking in your head like, I have to birdie this hole. If I'm trying to win this tournament, I have to birdie this hole.
Yeah, I told myself no matter what the situation was at all, I was throwing the same shot that I practice every single time, and that was the buzz flip up and let it drift a little.
Wait, let's back up a little bit. I got a question before the round even starts. Night before, what did you think your chances were going into the final day? Like, were you like, okay, I'm gonna win this tournament, or were you like, all right, I just got to be consistent, play my game plan, see where it lands us?
I just wanted to play my game and see what happened. Because no one could ever expect Calvin to have a round like he did. Like it was shocking to watch, and I was like, I have to capitalize. And there's actually a point in the round on hole 7, I missed a putt, and I got mad at myself, and I think I kind of punched my disc a little bit. I didn't hit it that hard. It's kind of like to get myself attention. Like,
yeah,
come on, dude, you're not letting this happen again. Like, this is it. Like, get your ass in gear, basically.
Yeah. And so that I'm wondering that, because then it kind of goes into 17 and 18 and everything, because now you have all non-major winners, and so like going into 16. Did you think that AB had it kind of locked up? Did you think, oh no, this is still anybody's game, especially with Calvin not being in it and Kyle and you kind of being pretty close? Was there kind of a feeling on the card of like nobody knows what's going to happen?
I mean, I knew AB had the 2 shirks, so I thought to myself, all you have to do is birdie out, and that's all you can do, and give yourself the best opportunity. So that, I never really thought I was, I didn't plan on playing 18 for par the same exact as if I play for birdie.
Yeah.
So nothing changes on my tee shot on that. So
yeah. How scary was that tee shot? Did you have flashbacks or anything come in your head of the previous round? Because in round 3, you end up hitting that tree on the right, which makes that hole now all of a sudden a lot harder. Was any of that kind of like, don't do that again, or were you able to just kind of remove all the negative thoughts?
No, I usually try not to think about anything else, but other than focus on that shot. And I honestly did not think about tree on the right.
Even that upshot's tough. I mean, under the pressure like that, because your layup zone is skinny right there.
Yeah,
you had to take it out over the OB to kind of paint the picture too, and kind of come close to those pines up there on the right as well. Right. And you're leaving yourself pretty short. So what was that like?
I threw the same stable zone I threw on 16, so I knew,
I saw
that just go left, and I went to a standstill, and I'm not kidding. I literally told myself, you're the best standstill thrower in the world right now. You can throw a 250-foot standstill hyzer zone.
Yeah.
Throw the shot right where you're aiming, and I did it.
What did you learn from your close finishes at D-Glow and MVP? What if anything helped you kind of be able to finish this out? Because from all the people in contention, you looked like you had the most stones coming down the wire there. So what did you take away from your close finishes at MVP and D-Glow to make you be able to pull it off here at the European Open?
In Portland. I'm still throwing Portland in there.
In Portland. Okay. In Portland.
Portland, I was only 1 stroke back of Goose going into 18. So I needed to eagle if he birdied to push a playoff. But what I've learned from those close finishes is, I think, dealing with the nerves of the situation. Because I can think back and remember the putt I had to force a playoff with Calvin was only like a 18 or 20 foot maybe. And I remember, number one, you walk up that huge steep hill on it.
Yeah.
And you're trying
out of breath.
You're out of breath. It's hot. There's 1,000+ people watching you. Now you have a putt for to force a playoff. Like, your heart rate's pumping already, and learning to control your heart rate, I think, is the number one thing under pressure situations. And Ricky actually in the off season had a guy come over when I was staying with him, and he talked to us about a breathing technique and like meditation. And I did that the morning of the round, of the final round, for like a good 20 minutes. and just like focusing on my breathing and clearing your mind completely of everything, and kind of making the nerves go away as much as possible. And the same thing with Maple Hill. Like I birdied, I think like 6 or 7 holes in a row, finish to get to hole 18 and throw the best shot anyone's ever seen off the tee, and be, I think it was 230 feet away, and you know, all the pressure in the world for me to win my first Elite Series, and you know,
threw it to New York after that.
I think you needed that to happen though, because you look at MVP, you look at DGLO, you look at even Portland, which is a big tournament, and then you compare it to the crowds that you were playing in front of a European Open. It does not compare at all. So if European Open would have been the first tournament that you were like in contention to win on a stretch, talk about nerves. I mean, you're like hole 16, you're throwing into like 500, 600 people right behind the basket, you know?
I mean, if you came to me and told me, you know, last year and said, hey, you're going to be right there for these wins, but you're going to lose, but that means next year you're going to win the major, would you take this deal? I'd be like, yeah.
Sounds good to me. Okay, I want you to rank these shots from easiest to hardest, okay? Up shot on hole 16, European Open. Tee shot on hole 17, European Open. Up shot on hole 18, MVP Open. Tee shot on hole 1, DGLO.
Oh.
Easiest to hardest.
So the easiest shot of that is 16's up shot, I think.
Okay.
The next easiest is probably, I guess it has to be MVP, because that's such a, you know, such an easy shot to do without the pressure. You have to take the pressure out.
Yeah, no pressure. You're just like you have this shot in a practice round and you're trying to execute it.
I would say 16, and then hole 18 MVP, and then it's pretty tough from there. Like both of the hole 1 at DGLO is pretty hard to throw the backhand shot like I'm throwing.
Yeah.
But so is 17. So, but I guess I'll say
they can go either or.
is the hardest.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like playing in front of that crowd though? What did you feel they were cheering for you, root for you? Did you feel that they were rooting for Calvin? What was the senses of like what the vibe of the crowd was?
I felt like they were rooting for the Europeans because they got the most cheers that from every time I played with them. They were rooting for the Europeans all the way. No, but I don't know if you guys noticed, but I feel like they were the most respectful crowd as far as like, dude, when you're on the tee, you could hear a pin drop. Like they were so quiet, and that like I don't think you get that in the States like as often. Like people are moving and stuff. Like people don't move an inch over there. Like it's pretty crazy. Even the kids, you know, most of the time kids are running around doing all kinds of crazy stuff. The kids just stop moving.
I think they also were like the most knowledgeable crowd too, because one thing that's always awkward is, you know, if you're tapping out for a triple on a hole and then you get the claps, you're just kind of like, I don't really want claps right now. I didn't get claps on a lot of holes. I'll say that. And I think that's like a knowledgeable thing. Like if you're tapping out for a double on a hole, probably don't clap for the person, but if the person makes like a 40-footer for birdie, clap. And so I think they were very knowledgeable in that regard as well, as far as respectful too. One of the best crowds that I've ever played in front of, for sure.
Does the Beast go as your number one favorite course now?
No,
come on. First major, that's your number one, dude.
I know.
He's not biased. He's not. I
biased.
appreciate him
okay.
for that.
Well, then what is it?
Idlewild.
Idlewild.
I love
Okay.
that place, man. That it's basically my home pro tour. It's only 2.5 hours from my house. Like friends and family always come out there, man. It's just a special place for me. I've
Gotcha.
won like 6 beat years or something there.
All
That's
right,
probably something like that though.
question I've got for you, because we've seen this before. We've seen it with Greg Barsby winning Worlds. We've seen it with Nate Sexton winning USCGC, of where they're able to accomplish, get the big major, but then after that they don't really win another one. But and it is hard. It's getting harder and harder now to win, obviously, than it was in the past. But like, where do you go from here? What's your thought process now moving forward? Does this win now elevate you to a whole different level, where you just are like coming in thinking that you're going to win every single tournament you play in?
I already come in thinking I'm going to win every single tournament I play in. Otherwise, I wouldn't play. If I didn't think I could win, I'm not going to play the tournament.
So do you think this helps you kind of like having the confidence now, being able to put a win in record books that moving forward?
It's definitely going to hurt me, I don't think. It's not going to take anything away. It's not going to, I don't feel like I have more pressure on me because I won this. I feel like pressure has been, released. And now I know in my head that I can win. And it's just go bogey free for 3 rounds, you're going to win. Maybe. I mean, you still got a birdie.
Yeah, no, you're right. And what are your thoughts too, being able to say that you took down, because the European Open last year, and I'm sure in years before that, was always kind of the fourth major. The field was definitely weakest out of all 4 majors. This was the strongest field ever outside the United States. How does that feel, kind of taking down the major at the European Open, knowing that this was the best field ever outside the US? I
mean, it's an honor, man, to put it together and to do that under the situation, the people that were there. Can we talk about how crazy it is also that there was like 40 plus, I think 42 guys from the US go over there? Like, it's not cheap to go to Europe,
No.
Like, it's awesome to see those guys make the trip, just like how so many Europeans have been trying to come and tour to the US, But it's an honor, man, really. It's just,
you got a sweet trophy too. You got a place for that?
You don't get to keep it, man.
Oh, it's one of those that they put your name on it and then it just stays there?
Yeah, my name's engraved forever on it. That's
pretty dope. That's sick.
I got this check though.
You get the big check, which is sick. The Happy Gilmore check.
Yeah, dude, I had to keep that. The looks I got from people in the airport walking through with that giant check.
You just rolled in through the airport with that thing?
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome. You probably got a lot of questions, like, where the heck did you just win that thing?
Yeah. I mean, it made going through customs and stuff pretty good, because everybody was always like, what do you got there? And I'm like, well, I won the European Open, And they're like, oh, that's awesome, man.
Welcome back to America.
Welcome back, man. I want to talk a little bit about your form, because I think you have one of the more unique back-end forms on tour, just because the nature of your run-up. Do you think having a limited run-up, do you think this is going to be something that you're going to see other up-and-coming players adopt?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of already have, as far as, there's some people, I get random messages of people sending me, tagging me, saying that, I'm their favorite player, and that, they try to emulate their form off me. And that's kind of surreal, because, back before, I even had a phone with a camera on it, and before YouTube was really a thing, when I was coming up, I know, Yuli, you're the same. Like, you just watch the guys that were better than you and tried to emulate your form off of them and tweak what you were doing, and you didn't really have a camera to go and study what your form was like all these kids do now. And it's
best player in Arizona hopped when he threw. So you know what I did? Opt.
in the hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool, I think, to see, especially if you're still on tour and you get like young up and comers that have identical form to you. That will be probably a surreal moment to just kind of see other people throwing like you, and you were the one that started that. I guess that'd be a wild thing to see.
I mean, like AB when he was a kid, man, like emulated Paul, like and everyone called him like Mini Paul. Like he was pretty close to every aspect as far as how he broke his putt down with a little foot waggle and all that.
Gotta get the details. Okay, talk to me a little bit about your Instagram name and how that came about. It's chain_antagonist. Some people are thinking that you potentially might have been in a metal band at one point. Is that true?
I mean, I was in a metal band at one point, but it did not come from that. Honestly, it's probably the most boring answer I could ever give you, and I just sat around forever and trying to think of a name, and finally it just came to me, and I was like, chain antagonist, that's perfect, and that's what I made it. What
instrument play in the metal band?
I play guitar.
Oh, okay. Did you really want to win Music City Open?
Yes. I was like just a few feet every round from that ace to win that other guitar.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They were giving it away on hole, what was that, 16, right? Ace hole 16, you got the guitar. Jeez, that would have been a wild one. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done. I said that if I would have won it, I would have just slammed it over the top of the basket. I don't think I actually would have done that, but I wanted to see what their reactions would be when I said that. All right. We've come to the fan favorite part of our interviews. And since you are new on Tour Life, we'll see if you got any new ones for us. This is where we ask you about your biggest pet peeves, things that might annoy you or get under your skin. It can come from shots that you do, being unlucky. It can come from your card mates. It can come from fans. It can come from pretty much anything. We've heard a lot at this point. So if you do have something unique, it will be rare for sure. But is there anything that kind of comes out at you as like, man, disc golf right now is just really, I wish this never happened?
I mean, I don't want to be that guy and sit here and cry about how my disc doesn't stay in the basket, but it does seem to be a trend sometimes. I am the guy who had the one fall through the basket, so it's kind of annoying sometimes.
If you guys haven't seen that video, you need to look it up. Is that on your Instagram? Do you have that posted on there?
No, because I try to not remember that.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's out there.
Go for it, because it literally just falls through the cage. It's a wild putt. But you're going with like baskets, just baskets being bad.
Yeah, we need something, I feel like, more consistent to I don't know what we need, honestly. Like, I think the Pro Tour needs to develop a basket just for the Pro Tour, and I've heard rumors and talks about them working on that, but it's like, then the sponsors for the event want, their name on the basket, even though it's not one of their brands. And it's like, I've even heard controversy of like them slapping Discraft on an end of a basket or vice versa, and both companies being upset with that, because that's not their basket. So I don't know.
What are your thoughts on Aaron Gossage's his take on it? Is he just wants a pole that's like motion detected, so like if you hit, like in hockey, the light goes off. That's what he wants. No spit outs. It's just if you hit the pole, hole over. You like that?
No, I mean, not really. I kind of like the you have to control the pace of your putt because you can't just slam them in there, and I totally get that. But when it's freaking when there's a 15-mile-an-hour headwind and you're just trying to spin your disc to get it to fly straight, it's kind of hard to control the pace. But
what about this? I got a Goss take, but with my own spin on it. There's a small square in the middle, just a very small square. Let's say it's like this big.
Talking can jam here.
And if you hit anywhere on that square, it's good. But then after that, if you get a spit out, who cares? If you hit anywhere in that little square, then it counts. So there's a sweet spot. You know what I mean? There is a small sweet spot. And if you hit that sweet spot, you're good. It counts even if it comes back to you. But then the rest of the basket, if you hit anywhere, it cut through.
Basket that does that?
I kind of like that. I think that's a good idea.
Can't we just create a basket that does that? Of where if you hit in this area, it always goes in?
Maybe there's a light at the top that does whatever. But if it hits anywhere on that little spot, it counts. And then if you miss anywhere on it, then you're up to randomness.
I wanted to hit the spot, and then you get like one of those gender reveal things that like blast off. The smoke comes up. All right, Yuli, you got the final question?
Yeah, out of all the players that you play with on tour, who's somebody that you like watching and you think about their game and you're like, man, that's nice. I really like that. Could be a shot, form, mentality, whatever it is.
I really like who is it that's always really positive? I don't know. Anyone who's like just has a really positive attitude, and even when something goes bad, like a putt spitting out or their disc hits and rolls OB. MJ is a good example, but I think sometimes you need that fire. You need to get upset a little bit because that's what makes you better, and that's the competitive nature of it. So I think if you have a good mix of someone who's has that MJ mentality but also has that fire that enough is enough and let's do this. That's how I try to be. So I don't know.
Pick yourself. So that doesn't count. Just kidding.
He's like, actually, the way I think, I love that.
Well,
hey, let's be honest. He has won the European Open, so it's probably not the bad answer.
I would say MJ, just because his attitude's so positive all the time, and I always like playing with him. He's got stories for days.
Is he gonna be playing in some of these Midwest tournaments? He normally jumps on tour, right? Like he normally plays Idlewild, I think.
I hope to see him out here, man. I'm not for sure though.
Okay. We'll see. But Corey, hey man, we appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you probably made a lot of new fans too after that performance. And if you are listening right now and you don't follow Corey yet on Instagram, go check him out on Instagram, chain_antagonist. And we wish you the best of luck. And I'm sure everyone will be paying close attention to how you finish your season off now. So congrats again on your major champion, man. That's going to be such a sweet thing now for everyone, every time. Instead of just like people, saying, sponsored by Discraft, Corey Ellis. Like now you get the major champion before your name. That's so sick.
It is sick. I thought about that too. I was like, man, so much better. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate you asking me on here, and we'll see you guys next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good, brother. Safe travel.
All right, congrats, buddy.
All right, there's your European Open champion, Corey Ellis, man. I was just thinking about that too, Yuli. Like, how sick would that be if you're just like world champion Paul Ulibarri? Like, that's everywhere you go. That's sick.
And that's what I tell myself before I go to bed, but it's like
it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same
effect.
All right, well, we'll keep the show going. I thought that was kind of fascinating, some of the stuff that he was talking about there. And it's kind of it makes a lot of sense now how he was able to keep his calm and cool moving forward. And that, I think, now has just created another killer on tour now down the stretch. When he's in contention now, it's no longer this, oh, is he going to be able to, get out all these nightmares and all these past mistakes that he's had? Now it's like, no, it seems like he's pretty confident now, talking about like every tournament he plays in, he's like, I'm going to win this tournament. So,
yeah.
All right, we will bring on our next guest now. We got Scott Stokely in the house coming live. What time is it over there, Scott?
It is just after 5 o'clock in the morning at the Åland Islands in Finland.
Oh my gosh! Still, well, I know me and Yuli and everyone watching really appreciate you coming on. I know the timing of everything probably is not super ideal with your schedule, but we do appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Are you an early riser?
No, I said all I knew is to start at 3:30 in the morning my time, so I set the alarm for 3:30. One of the things that I coach all the younger players when I attempt to mentor them is that you never turn down promotional opportunities. Period. It's just it's a blank check. I will be available. This is too good of an opportunity. You guys have a big platform, so yeah. I can get up early once.
I guess before we jump into what I really kind of want to talk to you about, I do want to kind of how's this season kind of gone for you? A little bit different than last year. Last year you jumped on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. You did pretty much the full tour in the United States. This year you decided to do something a little differently. You want to talk about kind of what made you make that decision?
Yeah. So this year I'm doing the PDGA Euro Tour. I support the European Pro Tour, but those events didn't line up. So both tours are good, but I'm on the Euro Tour. I just, after decades of playing, I just wanted different experiences. And I'd been everywhere in the U.S. and seen everything. I loved the Pro Tour. I loved getting to know everybody and compete with them. But just wanted that new experience. So I went and toured Australia, New Zealand over the winter, and then all over Southeast Asia and Japan. Now the Euro Tour. I'll be back to Asia again in the winter, and then back to the Euro Tour next year. And it's I'm playing the best golf in years. I actually hit the first Euro Tour event. I shot 1040 for the weekend, got a podium finish, qualified for USDGC. And I also have a 5th place finish out here, which I'm proud of both of those.
What do you think is the biggest difference between touring internationally and touring in the States?
I was surprised because I was under the impression that the courses would be a little bit smaller out here. There wouldn't be DGPT quality courses. Nothing could be further from the truth. The courses are every bit as good and hard as in the U.S. They don't have, from what I've seen so far, the big golf courses like the OTB course, but the technical courses they're masterpieces, all of them. There's going to be a little bit less competition. My 1040 rated podium finish on the Pro Tour probably puts me 8th. Respectable, but that's still not 3rd. But the level of golf is super high. I mean, there's still 40, 50,000 rated players at some of these events. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference. I mean, they're just as professional. They're similar. There's not a drop off. I'll tell you that much. They're just as high in quality, sure.
Do you still kind of have the drive and passion to, get a big win on tour? Is that still the fire? Is that fire still there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even my 3rd place finish, I was tied for 2nd with 3 holes to go. And I was trailing some guy named Paul Macbeth on my card, but there's no shame in that. But so I played at a level that was good enough to win the previous year with holes to go. I still want to compete with the best in the world. That you guys, all the players in the Pro Tour, are my heroes, and to get to play with you guys is it's like being in fantasy camp. If you want to be a rock star, except that I'm actually competing. When I saw you guys at Sewell, I finished PCS. I mean, I finished 20th. I mean, I beat a who's who of the best in the world for a top finish. And so if you're getting Burr, you're not happy with when you're 53 years old and you're like, holy cow, I'm actually like I'm in hunt somewhere. I love it. I love every minute of it.
So next time we'll see you stateside is USDGC, or are you coming to Worlds too?
No, I'm not coming over for either. I'm going to stay over here. I'm going to be competing in. There's a couple of championships in Spain at the end of the season. They wrap up the tour, and in October, September, I think I'm going to try to go down to Madagascar. There's a disc golf project down there I want to help with. That's my newest passion is disc golf in developing countries. So when I'm off the tour, I will be traveling to developing countries working on disc golf project there. That's really where my heart is right now in the off season anyways.
That's awesome. Very cool. So we won't see you stateside in a while then, it sounds like.
Why no USDGC?
I basically had my plans. You know, I qualified. I mean, that's my trophy. I'm good enough to be united. But as far as making the trip over there for that one event, it's just, you know, a lot of the same question that you asked me, Paul, about going to Masters Worlds. And a lot of it's just, I think about this and it's like, which one gets my heart racing? Like which one makes me excited? And when I think about USDGC, I'm excited to watch. When I think about going to PCS or the European Championships, my heart was racing. I'm excited to play. So I just have to go with the heart.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too. You know, I think you've been pretty positive on your experience on social media with being international. And obviously Paul has also been pretty positive about how he has enjoyed it over there. And I've already heard some players talk about how they're going to extend. You know, most of us came over there for that 2-week stretch playing the PCS and then playing the European Open. Sounds like some other players will also be extending their stay next season by a few more weeks, playing some events prior and after as well. So it'll be interesting too to see kind of how that develops. And I'm all for having more of a, you know, I think that's something that golf has been trying to work on, is they kind of went super heavy United States, and now they're trying to work on like, how do we get this thing a little bit more international? And they haven't really been able to do a good job of doing that. So I think with disc golf being as young as it is, I think now is a really good time to kind of start experimenting with, okay, can we do more international to try to build up this audience? Because I think after playing the European Open, I mean, you got to think that though a lot of people that came watched us go out there and play, they're going to tune in to tournaments with us playing in them that maybe they weren't going to previously. So it seems like a pretty smart marketing tool if it makes sense financially for the Disc Golf Pro Tour to go a little bit more international. I wouldn't mind playing in Madagascar either. That sounds fantastic.
No, well, here's the thing too. There's a bit of I think I was going to say a preconceived idea, but there's I don't think people are visualizing this the right way, because you're in the U.S. and you think of like Canadian football. That's either you weren't good enough for the NFL or you're Terrell Owens and you spent all your money. Or if a player goes to play European basketball, it's because he didn't get drafted, right? And so they tend to think of it as like second-tier leagues, and maybe they kind of are, but that is not the way it is out here. There's nothing about these that are second-tier, except you're missing a few of the 1040 players, because, you know, there's the DGPT, you know, takes those players, most of them. But other than that, is like there's not a drop-off. It's not just in the minor leagues.
A big drop-off for sure.
It's the best.
Yeah, the payouts are much smaller.
Yeah,
that is.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at.
But you're saying talent level.
Yeah, so of course. Okay, okay, so yeah, so there is, but I mean, in terms of like the quality of what you're doing, it's up there. No,
it doesn't feel like you're going to like a C-tier event. It still feels like you're going to a well-established.
These aren't, and they're not tiers. These are absolutely above your typical A-tier level for sure. These are pro tour events, like, and only going to get bigger. They're just getting bigger.
What are the crowds like over there compared to here? Like obviously the European Open, it kind of stands alone. But I noticed that like Norway was a smaller amount of people compared to even stateside, right? I felt like.
So at that one, I mean, that is such a beautiful, spectacular location. If you ran a disc golf event in Milford Sound in New Zealand, you'd get that same experience of the most amazing location ever, but you're in the middle of nowhere. So everyone had to kind of make a big trip out there. No, in Finland, 20% of people in Finland disc golf. It is the #1 activity for children to do after school. It's something like 45% of kids disc golf after school. So you go to a place like Finland. I mean, I can't walk into a restaurant here without getting recognized by people who aren't there for the tournament. So you're going to get great crowds out here. Less in Croatia, you know, like because they're more on the outside, but they're great.
Yeah, definitely room to grow too. I think in some of those areas that aren't so oversaturated with sports, you know, like the United States, I always say you can dream and that's completely fine. I just don't ever see disc golf becoming like on the same level as the 4 sports that are in the US right now. It just seems like it would be a bit of a stretch to say that, but in some of these other countries that, you know, maybe soccer is their #1 and then skiing is their #2, it's like you don't have basketball, you don't have football, you don't have these other sports to where disc golf can kind of move up the ladder a little bit easier. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what disc golf does in some of these smaller markets, if you will. But let's jump, Scott. You dipped your toe in the waters that I love to bathe in of where, you know, you just say a little, you know, you go out and you're just like, hey, I have an opinion on this. I'm going to say it. And it just opens up Pandora's box. And I obviously was tagged in it and was sent it many times to be like, hey, you need to talk about what Scott's talking about. So for those that didn't see your, I would say well-spoken, well thought out Instagram post on this, do you want to kind of just go and give a little brief summary on your thoughts on hole 16 at the European Open?
Yeah, so first off, it wasn't really a commentary on hole 16 because I don't want it to feel like I'm talking about UC or Discmania or the hole, because there's other holes out there. Basically, I'm talking about island holes that don't have a drop zone, meaning you effectively have to rethrow. And I'll even add when there's a hole in Krokol, Norway, that has a drop zone that's like 75 meters from a small island, which effectively means there's almost no drop zone. And those holes are, without a drop zone, open up the possibility for a player to take massive numbers. They don't have the option of laying up. The course at the European Open did leave an option to potentially make easier approach shot, but still not a gimme. Not if there was wind or conditions even. So the really what I was just expressing is how I felt about those holes. I don't think they're bad holes, and I certainly don't think they're unfair, and I certainly don't think that for a second, you know, AB wouldn't tell you, yeah, I had the option of doing something with a more conservative approach. So there's nothing unfair about them. I suppose if the winds pick up in the afternoon, that might not be, but that's always kind of a risk. So it's not that it's a bad hole or unfair. I was expressing my opinion of, do I enjoy those holes? And I personally can't stand them. I don't enjoy playing them. Like I have anxiety. I get nervous like everybody else when we play. But the level of anxiety I feel when
could that be maybe the epitome of a good hole is one that players don't like playing? Could that for spectators wise? Because I think if you ask fans on like 16, I think the majority of fans are gonna be like, I love that hole. So do you think course designers need to be making courses towards the pros and what the pros enjoy playing and like playing, or courses that maybe make them a little more uncomfortable comfortable, or even just sprinkle in a few holes that make them a little uncomfortable. Because I think we can both agree, like, hole 11 sucks, right? Like, I think everyone here can agree hole 11 on that course is a bad hole.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we all pretty much agree
that's
on that.
Different. The way you feel playing that hole is a different anxiety, or I don't enjoy this, than 16. Is that what we're kind of getting at?
Yeah, I think it's just when there's the potential of a penalty that is so massive. Well, first off, there's two takes. There's the player's take and and as a spectator. As a player, a 2-stroke penalty for missing an island is a massive penalty. You know, the potential of much larger that. I mean, I can imagine like a baseball pitcher, a relief pitcher coming into a game and realizing there's a place where if you pitch the ball, you give up 7 runs on that pitch. Like, that's the potential train wreck that can happen with a mistake or multiple mistakes, right? But there isn't that massive penalty. Like, a home run is bad enough for, your curveball not breaking. And a 2-stroke penalty to me seems like a huge penalty. I mean, 2 strokes to any of us out there. Like, I don't know what place you finished there, but add 2 strokes and you're probably 15 strokes worse. So that's, to me, that's math. But that's also as a player. Well, my take was almost more as a spectator watching it. And that is, I don't find any joy in watching what happened to AB or what happened to Johnny McRae or what happened. Like, there's nothing about that.
I'm on the other fence.
Exciting to me.
I'm on the other fence. Because to me, once AB throws that first shot OB, I'm now thinking, what is he going to do now? Because it's not a given, right? Like, if there is a drop zone, if he throws that first shot and doesn't get on the island, there is no second guess. There is no like, what is he gonna? He's gonna go to the drop zone and like death putt or not make a death putt, and that's just it. Where even him walking up to that disc, I didn't know if he was going to go for it or not. Right? Like, so to me, I find those shots when you have the way it's set up, and I think I agree with you. If that hole had like an OB stroke and distance rule, I think that might be a little bit too punishing. But the way that it currently is set up, and how much more difficult each shot that you miss gets, not only the fact that there's more pressure, but also now you're throwing a disc that you're not like super comfortable with. It gets harder and harder and harder. I love that. Yuli, what's your take on 16? Because I know you have an opinion on it.
I'm of the opinion of well, first of all, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we play a hole at a major championship where we don't play that rule ever. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. We don't play that rule ever. That's just not a rule that you play. I think that's silly. Like, okay, so at the major championship, okay, now you just throw it and throw as many as you'd like. Just throw your whole bag with no penalties. I think that is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. So that's the first thing that I'll say. Now, if it's something that was implemented throughout the tour and there were holes where it was just like, okay, this is one of those silly holes where you just throw as many as you'd like with no penalty and everybody can be aggressive and we can watch people blow up and watch people. Here's what I don't like. Also, that hole really grinds my gears. It does, because let's say that I go up to the hole and I'm playing and I lay up, right? I play the hole to lay up, and then somebody way behind me goes for it, whiffs it, and then he sticks it, and he gets the same score as me. To me, that is absolutely ridiculous beyond all reason that we are taking the same score. Like, one guy throws and misses his shot completely. I make my shots 100% to the green.
Then you have to hate disc golf holes, though.
I do.
There are so many disc golf holes. Like, okay.
No, I absolutely do.
Because there's so many holes where like guys are just blasting shots. They go 150 feet
most of the
OB,
disc golf
and
that
then
we
they just
play
have a
is
30-foot tap in for par.
I think most of the holes that we play are soft, and I think that when you throw a bad shot, you should you should have the repercussions of a bad shot. And down a major championship, well, I don't know why it's not stroke and distance on 16. Who cares if it's too punishing? We're all playing the same thing. Like me, there's no difference between we all get a 2 on it or we can all get a 7 on it. You're throwing your best on every single hole. I don't like the new rule. I think that if you don't have the wits to have a game plan and have a shot dialed into that green, now when you have bad weather and stuff, everything gets all wacky. We all know that. But like AB could have laid up. He could have laid up. And here's my point. Last point on the map. If it was a regular hole that we play all the time, you know what AB does? He does lay up because of the penalty. He does lay up, and he gets up and down, and he takes par, and he might win the tournament. But
that's why I think the bunker rule works so well in that, because it forces.
It works so well because we don't play it.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think it works so well. You're like, why not? Like, why should I not go for it? And then you get in this
we don't
weird.
Play it.
I know, but then you get in this weird mode of like, how many times
you make that same decision next year?
You gonna think he's laying up?
Yes. If he's in that same spot, if he could do it over again, you don't think he'd lay up?
I don't know, man. I don't think he lays up the first 3 rounds.
Because
here's my point. It's not.
He had a tough lie.
Yes.
He had an obstructed sidearm. It was at least a visual obstruction. This is what's so funny. This might as well be like Fox News and CNN, because I couldn't disagree with you more, Yuli. Because here's the thing. If you're going to not have a drop zone, at least there's not a stroke penalty for every time you miss.
You can lay up.
So even that, because if he does stick the next one, that's no different than someone missing the drop, going to a drop zone hit and banging the safe putt too.
Yeah, what are your
there's a big difference. And safe putt's not going to be a 25-footer, Scott. He's going to be at least 45 to 50 feet. No. He's going to have to make a great shot, right?
Sure.
Well, what are your thoughts, Scott, on those drop zones?
Sure.
Like, what's your ideal drop zone?
10 feet. No, just kidding.
I think ideal drop zone is that. This is easy. The drop zone should be in a place where the player steps up and says, "I can make this putt, but I'm risking out of bounds."
Do you like drop zone putts?
See, so now.
Yeah, because
now it's okay to be risky.
The player has the option of laying up the drop zone and taking their bogey, but they have the option of going for it, but then they're also going to take a double bogey if they miss. I mean, I have instances that are a choice whether or not you go for it. That would be, I would say, a positive on this hole, is that when I played it, I said, if my drive comes up short of that little dirt patch, I'm laying up. If it's past it, I'm going for it. So there is that element of, it's not a foregone conclusion that I'm going for it. But I like when players have to make a choice. I do want to add one thing too. That when I said I do or don't enjoy watching that hole. Again, this was not a commentary on the hole. It's just my personal opinion. What I said was, if this was the PGA Tour, and I don't know any of these players, and I think they're all wildly successful to some degree, and whether they win or lose this tournament, they're pretty much comfortable in their lives. They're successful. The train wreck doesn't really bother me so much. So that millionaire had a bad hole. I do feel like, to me, these are, it's my personal opinion, these are my friends. I'm watching my friends blow up. And so the fact that I don't want to see them doesn't mean that I wouldn't necessarily, as a spectator, enjoy the hole for that drama. It just means Scott Stokely doesn't.
That's a very good point. I mean, whenever I watch like UFC fights and I have some sort of relationship with the fighter, I don't like watching it nearly as much as just two people fighting, because it's like I don't want to see someone I like or know get knocked out. It's like it sucks in that regard. The nice thing here, like, AB's young. He's got a big, huge, successful career ahead of him.
He's going to have so many championships.
He will be fine. But
not worried about it.
I want to go to your drop zone thing, because that is my least favorite drop zone ever, is when you have like a 380. You have a 380 foot shot, and you go OB, and then you just advance to like a 40-foot death putt. And I feel like disc golfers love that. There's like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And I'm like, I want the person, that's fine. Don't make them have to throw the 380-foot shot again, but make them have to throw a shot, like make it 300 feet. I want them to still have to execute the shot. And to me, it's like you can have someone just shank that shot and save par, and someone execute the shot and have a 35-footer and miss it, and they get the same score. It's like, I think there's so much, and I always go back to hole 17 at USCDC because it's such an easy hole. It's not a hard shot. If you look at that shot and what it's asking, it is not hard. The only reason that shot is difficult is because you know what's going to happen if you miss it. And if that shot had a 40-foot death putt, if you missed it, I don't think that many people are missing that shot. The fact that if you miss it, you have to just keep going, that terrifies people, gets their blood rate high, their heart rate high rather, and they end up juicing it into the water, or they short it into the hay bales. And so to me, it's like, if I know I'm stepping up to a hole and it's like, I have to execute this shot, not getting on the green, that adds so much. And I saw so many good players not be able to execute a 280-foot stock hyzer onto that green because of the rule of you don't get bailed out. That, to me, I love like not bailing out players. I think players are too good. We don't need courses to just bail them out and be like, you know what? You weren't even able to complete the hole properly, but here, just advance to putting. So like you didn't even have to actually throw a shot. You just have to be a good putter and you can like play well. Like, I don't love that. I like seeing people have to sweat and be like, crap, I have to freaking execute the shot or I'm not advancing.
You like the finish, Scott?
So I actually love your point.
I'm sorry. Do you?
I love your point there, Brody. I think that's super valid because I've always said when people used to say these holes are too long, I said, no, of course you test every skill. Long, short, finesse, shape, shot shaping, siren backhand rollers. So if on that list of things that test, let's test your ability mentally to take on that risky situation. That I think that's valid. I mean, you're adding one more skill that you have to be professional. But it still separate the two things. Those are all arguments as far as why they're a good hole. Where my video is simply why I don't enjoy them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yuli,
so
Yuli, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say I like the US because of the finish, because you have to go through 17 to get to win the major, right?
Not anymore,
like
but
that.
Yeah, continue.
Yes, not anymore, but yeah. and I like the European Open because you have to get through probably the hardest stretch of holes that I can remember of a tournament.
Doubt.
I mean, 15, 16, 17, and 18. If you have to birdie all those to win the tournament, good luck. And if you birdie all those, you're probably going to win the tournament if you're on the lead card, right?
Sure.
I like that because of how tough they are. But it also, if you're going to win tournaments, like you have to be strong mentally. And people just fold and collapse because it's tough. And your body doesn't react the same way. And when you get to a hole like that, where unfortunately we saw it with AD, he kept going for it. He didn't make the correction. He kept going long. And then the person who was able to do it was Corey. He just stepped up, nailed it, birdied 17, parred 8, and he's a champion. I think holes like that are more of what, in my opinion, that disc golf need. Is they need to test more of the mental side than the physical side. We can have courses like that. The preserve is testing your ability to birdie how many holes in a row, right? It's just a birdie test. How many birdie you get in the tournament, the winner's going to be 40 on par. Congratulations. But there's also, I think, should be tournaments like that to where, and not every major, I'm not saying every major. I think that there should be 4 majors, 4 completely different courses. I think there should be a woods course. I think there should be something kind of in the middle. The European is a great test. They have that kind of in traditional golf too, where they have the British Open and then they go to the US Open, which is typically tight with lots of rough, and even par could win you the tournament. I just feel like in disc golf, we're getting into this traditional golf course birdie fest that's not like it's a skill to be able to shoot 12 under a round. Yes. But when's the last time we played a tournament where the course was so hard that if you shot like 5 under par, you moved up cards? Like when's the last time you played a course like that, Scott?
Blue Ridge
Yeah, Blue Ridge.
Championships.
You know what I mean?
PCS was in that ballpark.
Sure.
Moving up cards to, you move from card 2 to card 1, you move from card 6 to card 5.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, one of the players, and I can't recall, one of the people from the European Tour was talking to me like in the last week. Might have been at PCS, but they were asking, did I think this was too hard? And my response is that absolutely not. I said, we are the very best to ever do this. And we should be challenged at this level. Yeah. I'll give you a quick side story is that when I wasn't where I used to bowl a lot. And when I bowled, I was like 215 average, not great, but respectable league bowler. And the person that ran the league was on the PBA tour. And he kept telling us, oh, these aren't the oil patterns to lay the oil down on the PBA tour. And we kept saying, we'll do the oil patterns like the tour. And he's like, you guys will hate it. And we finally convinced him to do it. And if you're a bowler, you'll get this. Sorry for the reference if you don't. But it was a nightmare. All of a sudden, it turns out I sucked. But not me. We all sucked. And we're like, I cannot believe what these players have to deal with that you don't see when you watch the PGA Tour. And Brody, you can tell me I'm right. Isn't it the same in ball golf? Like I've heard the greens on the Pro Tour, if you put them at the country club, people would hit the club.
Yeah, you have people all the time saying like, oh, I go out and shoot in the 70s, and it's like, okay, well, you're playing on a 6,500 course. There's no force carries. The greens are running at 7.5. I mean, it's a completely different ball game. I think disc golf's kind of equivalent a little bit too, right? Where it's like when I first started playing, I was playing a bunch of pitch and putt courses and I was shooting 10, 12 under. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go on tour and just dominate. And then it's like, wait, I can't just throw a zone on every hole. And I think to me, like, I don't like watching disc being a dart competition or a bowling competition of where there isn't really any decision making, right? When you go and step up bowling, you're trying to throw the same shot every single time. You're not like, ooh, on this one I'm going to do this or that. There's no decision making. And to me, that's a big aspect, kind of going back with what Yuli said on the mental side. That's a big thing that sometimes we miss decision making. And I think when you have par 3 holes, specifically on the par 3s, there really isn't much decision making at all. It's pretty much just execute the shot, and that's fine. But like that's why I think we should be playing courses that only have like 4 or 5 par 3 holes, and the rest 4s and 5s.
I totally agree. We agree on this one.
The 4s and 5s is where it's like, holy cow, you throw like a crappy shot on the tee shot, and you're just like, what am I doing? Like hole 3 is one of my favorite holes we play all year at European Open. That par 5.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's such a good hole because there's so many decisions you have to make throughout. Even when you get on the green, you have to make the decision. The green's so good. It's like, am I running this 40-footer or am I laying? You have to make a decision every step of the way. I would love to see more holes like that.
Do you guys, last thing about hole 16, do you guys like, you guys didn't answer me. Do you guys like the fact that it's a rule we don't play at all and then it's just there? Like, is that okay in sports?
To me, I think it's a rule that needs to be adopted more. Same with like hazard. Hazard is like another rule that I think needs to be adopted on more courses as well. I would love to see it used on more holes. And I think the bunker rule could be a really good rule, or I guess a good way of playing other holes on tour that you because I agree with Scott as well, is like you don't want to have a hole where someone shoots 14 over and it's just like they're done. You can throw 2 terrible shots on hole 16 and walk away with a bogey. So like to me, it's like that's not ending your thing, but you're going to be losing 2 strokes to a lot of people.
Right,
Because a lot of people are just going to birdie that hole.
I'm fine with the way it plays. I don't mind it at all. What I'm saying is, why the new rule? Like, why do we play all year and then at the major, they're like, what at the USDGC, they're going to be like, all right, this is a tomahawk hole. Everybody throws tomahawks.
No. We don't have to go like weird rant that Simon had on Instagram for a little bit where he's like, we need to have like standstill zones and,
I'm just saying
and roller zones and all that.
I just don't understand why everybody's okay with it. Like, then they're like, okay, this one is you just throw it and then you.
Because I don't think it's that much different. I don't think it's that much different than stroke and distance. It's just stroke and distance without the penalty.
Yeah, but
we've had it here and there. But I don't know. I mean, Scott, do you want to see the bunker rule implemented more, or do you think you don't like it as a rule?
I personally, between that and stroke and distance, I prefer the bunker rule. For sure, I let it play. But I think you really make a good point too, which is, do you introduce things that make tournaments that are outside the box? Yeah. So philosophically, I would say I'm on Yuli's side, except in this case, I do like that change. It's a way of softening.
No, I like it. I like it. I'm saying,
don't experiment at a major.
Why are we like, what are we doing? Like that. Imagine them doing that at the Masters. They're just like, okay, and then on this one, if you hit it in the water, no penalty. Just go again. We'd be like, wait, what? And they would never do that ever.
Well, I think disc golf already has like way too many different types of rules. The fact that you have to like look at how the hole plays on every hole, and you have to read a paragraph on how this hole plays. To me, it's like, I think we need to do away with that. We should have how OB is, how hazard is, how bunker is. We should have these like different colors or whatever you want to do, to where you step to a hole and you like know how to play it. You don't have to read a paragraph of like, okay, well, we go OB here, you take it to this drop zone. But if you go OB here, then you read T, and then if you do that, to me, sometimes it's a little bit too confusing.
It's a bit confusing when you have, some holes with drop zones, some holes and out, some holes bunkers. I actually stepped up to a hole at PCS. It was where it played, it wasn't OB, it was a bunker, and I was going to advance take my beater in, which would have been a massive penalty. And fortunately, a car was like, whoa, no, you can stand in it. And I was like, they were kind enough to prevent me from making that mistake, simply because there was a difference between how the OB was played. But I mean, that's still my fault. I mean, I have a caddy book. I could have known better.
I think too, for spectators wise, we're talking now about like the product. Sure. Like, it's so confusing when a disc goes somewhere, and like even the announcers, when the commentators are just like, is he OB there? Or like, to me, it's like we got to somehow sharpen that up.
And I got to ask both you guys, because you said something earlier, Brody, about spectators and like watching it and there's decision making, but the spectators don't necessarily see the decision making involved, and how courses are so hard. Have you guys both had the experience where people who aren't on these courses not appreciate how actually difficult they are?
Oh yeah.
I've had people message me like, you should be able to birdie that hole every time. It's 160 meters and the fairway's wide. But they don't see that you have to throw so high over the tree that wide fairway is not that wide anymore, because the variance that comes from throwing high doesn't translate. Have you guys had that experience?
I was that person when I first started playing disc golf, being like, I'm going to be dominating. These people are trash. And then you get out and you realize, like, wait, throwing like 450 feet accurately is actually a little bit trickier than it looks like on camera. So yeah, I think that's one thing too that is super useful, is if we can start having more championship level, tour level courses in more areas. Because if you're just in an area and you're only playing par 54 holes and it's 4,500 feet, it's really hard for you to relate like how difficult it is, versus having one course, even just one course in the area where you go and you play once, you're just like, holy cow, that's tough. I think it makes it a little bit easier if you're watching, because obviously when you're in there and you step up to hole 16 and you see how small that green is. If you're a spectator and you're there, you're like, okay, this is actually
the tee shot's kind of tight
tough.
too.
Yeah, you got to hit it up.
And I'll tell you a funny story. I was actually at Idlewild, which I love the course at Idlewild. And I was talking to the tournament director and the head of the parks department. And we were walking, and I asked him, I heard, is it true that this course is actually, you play 27 holes on the same piece of property because you take holes out to combine holes? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, why do you do that? And the guy says, well, we need to be more family friendly. And I said, how many courses do you have in Cincinnati? And he says, 65. And I'm like, you have 64 family friendly courses. What could be better than giving all the players one course so they can go up there, shoot a score, and go, oh, that's how far I am from what Gannon shot? Because don't people do that even like on PGA courses? You can go to Pebble Beach, right?
I will. What I'll say to that is I think they need to have additional tee pads, because there are people that do not enjoy just getting their butt whooped because of the distance. I think you could go out there and be super challenged. Like hole 1, for example, at Idlewild, that hole could still be very, very challenging if you move the tee pad up 100 feet. So to me, I think
don't you think there's 4 courses for the players in that town? They can have. I'm not saying
but like when you go and play Pebble
idea.
Beach, no one's playing the tips. No one's playing where the pros are playing. You're playing from you're playing from because you still want the course itself is still going to be very challenging, but you're going to put yourself in a position to where you can actually get onto the green in 2 versus, if you can only throw 280 feet and you're playing hole 1, you're going to throw it as far as you can, and you're like 100 feet short. Like that's not super fun, but that's where I think like those courses could be useful if you could adjust the tees, because you still have to execute the shot. You still have to throw the shots, and it's just going to be at a distance that's like a little bit more feasible for you. That's the only thing I would say.
Well, you can have both.
Yes, you can have both.
The alternate tee thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can still have both. I think players would want to challenge themselves against the pros because they see the scores and it's a number.
One time.
And so that's what's great about golf. You quantify it with the number.
Once I took my buddies. They're all about MA3, MA2 levels in Dallas. There's like 15 of us that play in this group, and we went out and played like the one kind of championship level course. I think what was the big tournament out there in Dallas that they used to play? White Rock or
Red Rock, the Red Rock show?
I don't know. I don't remember the name of the course. It used to be a pretty big tournament in Dallas, but regardless, we went out there and they all shot like over par, and the majority of them was like, this was miserable. I'm never doing this again, because they're used to playing like miniature golf courses where they shoot like 10 under. And to them, that's way more. A lot of people, I think, that play disc golf want to play to where they're shooting 10 under par and not challenge. Round rock. That's it. Round rock. Versus playing a course that they are challenged. Right. And I think, to each their own, I guess. To me, it's like, I want to be challenged. I don't think it's fun playing a course where I'm like, am I going to shoot 17 under today or 18 under? Like, to me, that's not super fun. But I think a lot of people out there do enjoy just going and playing for birdies, I guess. And that's why they like watching like Preserve. Like, to me, like watching Preserve is not interesting at all. But there are people out there that love that course, and they love seeing people shoot 16 under par. That's not me, but I guess there are some people out there. Yeah. To each their own, I guess, right? Yuli, did you have anything else?
That's all I got. Yeah,
that was a good one, Scott. We're gonna have you back on here at some other point. Now that you've dropped your first hot take on Instagram, is this gonna be like a monthly thing? Are we gonna see more of this in the future?
I don't know. I just felt compelled because to be honest, it was because I was so crushed watching AB what he went through. And by the way, that's not the same way I feel when a friend of mine, because everyone's my friend on tour. If they miss a putt and lose, it sucks. It's not the same feeling. I'll tell you one thing I do enjoy, guys, is that I'm going to date myself here. back my day when I was younger, people used to actually have different opinions. And at no point was there character attacks for having a different opinion. So I really appreciate the way you guys discuss things.
Well,
it's kind of old school. You just may not know that, but it is.
Yeah, we won't attack your character, but I will tell you right now, people on social media, they definitely will. So that's that. We'll see if you can continue on the putting out the hot takes on social media. I know I like it. I think more players need to kind of express their opinions on what's going on. I think it helps kind of develop stories and gets people talking. So I'm all for it, but you do have to kind of have thick skin, because if you are someone that you want everyone to like you, you're probably best to just sit back and not say anything. So take that for what you will.
Yeah.
But hey, we really appreciate you coming on,
Appreciate
and we'll definitely have you back on,
You're
Scott,
welcome.
and enjoy your
thanks, Scott.
your week out in Finland, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Look this weekend, buddy. Play well.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. Have a great rest of the
Some
season.
sleep.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah,
Thanks,
get
everyone.
some sleep. Get some sleep.
I'm going back
All
to
right,
sleep
appreciate
right
it, Scott. All right, Yuli. This is kind of ran on a little bit tonight. So this is what I'm thinking we do, because I still have a lot on here. So this is what I'm thinking we do. I think we finish. I have a few more things with MPO. Actually, no, I don't have anything with MPO. I actually have one more thing with MPO. I want to run through FPO quickly. Okay. And then we'll run the Katrina Allen interview, and then I think we'll call it. I think that's the
picks
play.
too.
We'll do the picks before the Katrina Allen interview. So the last few things I want to talk about the MPO is, first off, again, I don't know if we're close to this, but it would have been so much more drama if we were playing in twosomes that final day, because not only would you have Calvin and AB on the final card, and Corey not seeing what AB was doing because he would already have played that hole, but also you would have players like Etta, you'd have players like Eagle. They would be finishing out their rounds way earlier, and so they would actually have some sort of lead, and the leaderboard would be shifting so much more than what it was. So again, just a thought of, I don't know if we can ever
like
get
that a lot,
there,
actually.
but I think it's interesting. Like when Ezra got in the clubhouse at 31 under, I think that would have been a lot more interesting if he got in the clubhouse at 31 under and the leaders were at like 27.
Yeah.
Right. Or something like that, of where they're like, holy cow. Okay. I gotta get four more birdies. Last thing on the European Open MPO side, crowds matter. We'll have Silas, if you're watching on the YouTube, we'll have Silas throw up some pictures that I took. I didn't take them personally, but I took them from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. These photos look so much cooler.
Yeah.
Because of the crowd. And if you remove the crowd, it's just like, all right, it's just people in a field throwing a disc. But you go and you look at some of these photos and you're just like, it's so legit, Yuli. It looks so cool.
It is. So
man.
Funny story. When I went to stay at Bob Rotella's house for a little bit, I was talking to him about disc golf. He's like, do people come watch? And I pulled a picture from the European Open, of course, and showed him a picture instead of any other picture of any crowd.
Yeah, it's always, dude, tons of people come. Look at this thing. This is like how it normally is. But guys, you look at these, look at photos as we're here, the entire fairway is lined with people. It is just awesome, man. It's absolutely awesome. So, all right, let's run through FL real quick.